Hello, everyone, and welcome back, or thank you for joining us if it's your first time. This is the Mind Wealth Podcast, and my name is Chelsea. Get ready to sit back, relax, and unwind while we chat about all kinds of things. Alright, gang. Last week we talked about some of the pitfalls going on in psychology today. So this week we gotta talk about the good stuff. What has improved? What is going well? And what things are we looking forward to? Let's start out with the reach of the field of psychology. Many of us who enjoy the field understand that not everyone is going to dive headlong into the research papers that define our practices, studies, and psychological world. That, in order for our findings to be useful or relevant, we need to bring the information to the everyday person in a way that it's easier to digest than our long-form studies. People within the psychology field are currently working to make the research we do much more relatable for the public. Because honestly, that's who we do all of this for. We want to help you live a better and fuller life, and we have some really great knowledge on how to do that, if we could just find more engaging ways of explaining it to you. With the rise of social media, we have started bridging those gaps, with psychologists sharing their practices in ethical ways and giving real-life examples of how they help their patients with common issues many relationships or people face. We are giving voices and faces to more mental health problems than ever, allowing people to step into the day in the life of someone else. Then there are people like me who start podcasts. The amount of science-based podcasts have grown exponentially over the past few years, emerging topics that are striking the public's interest, including the psychology of aging. But even chemistry and physics are having their spotlights. The number of people listening to podcasts are up as well, with the total of around 78% of the population listening to some sort of podcast since 2021. And with this wider eye on psychology, we have also started to shift how we do our research, who we talk to, how we conduct it, and even who is doing the research. Psychology is making huge strides in reevaluating how we do things so that we can be more inclusive of the whole human experience. With that fight comes the fight against misinformation. How easily information can be spread these days is a huge reason why there's so much more bad information out there. The people within the psychology field have started taking it upon themselves to work on sharing how to spot those false claims, helping people know when information might look sketchy, how to identify good sources, and help fix some of the trust issues that have been brewing in our country. The way that our social media these days is tailored to allow us to follow the train for confirmation bias, and it chugs strongly along those lines of what you believe is what you see. Our social media is actually programmed to show us more of the information that we interact with. So, if you found yourself down the rabbit hole and feel like what you're seeing must be true because you've seen this so many times from so many different places, you're hitting that same frequency illusion that we've talked about before, making that one way of thinking seem more common than it might actually factually be. Another way that psychology is fighting back against the misinformation is by informing our children, trying to get a refocus on things that the sciences bring to the table in an educational background, the research aspects, and the focus on evidence. And not only are we refocusing on teaching the students these methods, we are working towards teaching the teachers, helping them to improve their communication and teaching styles so that things don't have to be adjusted per learning style because they already incorporate them. And since we're already talking about children, people in the psychology field are noticing and seriously taking a look at children's mental health, fighting against things like depression or loss of life, and in general focusing on how we can start shifting this trend that has increased around 40% over the past 10 years. That's a huge increase in a very short amount of time. In combination with the Preventative Health Services Task Force, psychologists have helped build new recommendations to create preventative care for kids, one of those being anxiety and depression screenings for children between the ages of 8 to 18 years of age. Not only are psychologists helping implement these screenings, but classroom programs as well. Programs such as Classroom WISE, WISE, which is a free course that helps teachers or school staff help kids who are in distress. And these are just two of the many programs that are being enacted today to help protect and prevent our children from the hardships of being a kid in today's society with all of the pressures surrounding them. Kids aren't the only ones who are struggling, though, and we see that. We are working to help in so many different ways. We're joining forces with all kinds of groups such as police officers to help fight police violence, working within businesses to help increase worker satisfaction, and even larger goals like expanding the one-on-one approach to help strengthen health across entire populations. That's not even all of it, but it's a great start to the changes that those of us in the psychology community are creating. So stay tuned to the rest of this month to hear more about things going right in the psychology sphere, and where our ideas or research are headed, or where you might find help. I look forward to sharing an update on psychology and artificial intelligence as well, because there's a lot to unpack there. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I've enjoyed our time together. If you want to join me again for another chat, you can keep your eyes peeled every Wednesday for a new episode. Feel free to follow me at MindWealth on Instagram if you want to get to know me a little bit in the meantime. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.